Alright everyone, it's time to create the weather list so that it cycles through the different kinds of weather for different levels. You should have already created it, so go to variables and you'll see your list there, weather, and just click it to see it. So we begin just by putting in some things that we want, where we want them. So we wanted the mist for the ghost, nothing for the bats. For the monster, we wanted the storm and the wind for the witch. And then if the length of this weather list is equal to the length of the enemies list, then it's always going to assign the same weather to the same opponents as it cycles. So as you go ghost, bats, monster, witch, and then after that it goes back to ghost, well in the same way it's going to go back to mist. So the ghost is always going to be with the mist, the bats are always going to have none, and then the second time you come around to the monster, it's going to be a storm again. The second time you come around to the witch, it's going to be the wind again, and then the ghost is going to be mist again, and so on. So that the 4 elements on weather are synced to the 4 elements on the monster list. If you want to avoid that, you can just add a none and put it at a step, and then you'll get different weather effects with different opponents as you go up levels. So for example, after you get past the witch, it goes to the ghost, but the ghost now is going to be on none. And then after the ghost, it goes to the bat, but the bat is now going to be on mist. And then the monster will be on none. And then the witch will be on storm. And then it's back to the ghost again, but this time the ghost is on wind. And then the bats are on none, and so on. So because it's slightly out of step, then it's going to mix and match the different weathers to the different opponents. Now, watch out, if you add another opponent later, so that the enemies list has length 5, then it's going to go back into sync, and you're going to end up with all the same weathers matched to all the same opponents. So the trick is to make sure that the weather list and the enemies list are a different length. And it doesn't matter how you do it, but as long as they're different lengths, then it's going to mix up which enemies get matched to which weather systems. But for now, let's just leave it like this. Now, what we need it to do is we need it to cycle through this. Right now, it's set up so that it will give you mist on level 1. It will give you nothing on level 2, storm on level 3, wind on level 4, but then when it gets to level 5, there's nothing there, so it will give you nothing. So we want it to loop back, and we did that earlier with the enemies list. I'm going to do it in a slightly different way this time, a more advanced way, a more elegant way. So right now I'm in health. You don't have to copy this. We're just going to be doing some experiments. So the first thing we need to do is create a variable with the sprite only, and I'm going to call this variable temp. And that's simply because it's temporary, because the code I'm about to do is not code that I'm going to leave in the game. It's just me doing a little experiment, and then set temp to 1. So I'm grabbing a control forever loop, and the forever loop is going to keep changing temp, so it's just going to count. And just so it doesn't count off to infinity really fast, let's put wait 1 second. So what this is doing right now is it's just going to start at 1, and then it's going to wait a second, then it's going to change it to 2, wait a second, change it to 3, wait a second, change it to 4. So right now it's a counting function. And we can get it to say out loud what it is that it's counting. So if I get it to say temp, and then we start, then our bottle is going to just say the numbers as it counts them. So right now it's just counting. Okay, let's stop that. And now let's change it a little bit. I want it to count in a cycle. So it's going to count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You'll recall that that's actually quite tricky to do. And can you remember the function that we use to kind of get things to cycle through a list? Well, you'd be right if you recall that it's the mod function. Now the mod function is like division, but instead of returning how many times one number goes into another, it returns what's left over. It returns the remainder. So for example, 12 mod 3 is 0 because 3 goes into 12. But 13 mod 3 is 1 because when you divide 13 by 3, you get 1 left over. So this just gives you the remainder. And this is quite useful for kind of creating a cycling list, which I'll show you. Our first idea is to do something like this. We'll do it in 4s. So temp mod 4. Now watch what happens. 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0. But we don't want that. We want 1, 2, 3, 4. So since this is only going up to 3, what happens if we take this and we just add 1 to it? Is that going to move it up to 4 the way we want it to? Let's take a look. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, This is the right cycle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But if we look carefully, we notice that it's in the wrong starting place. It's starting at 2, which means that the very first weather we would get would be none, and then it would move straight to the storm. So the bats would get the storm instead of the monster, and so on. Everything will be off by 1. And that's not what we want either. You can kind of see just by looking at the pattern that if the inputs started at 0, then the outputs would start at 1, which is where we want them to start. So what we need is the input itself to step back by 1. So I'll show you what I mean. We're going to take temp and we're going to minus 1 from it and then just put it back in there. So now this is going to start at 0, and 0 mod 4 is 0. But then when you add 1, it's going to be 1. So it's going to start at 1. The whole green thing is going to start at 1. And then when this is 2, this thing will be 1, which means this whole thing will be 1 mod 4, which is 1. And then plus 1 is 2. So it'll go from 1 to 2. Now you can't quite see here that it's mapping the right inputs to the right outputs. All you're seeing is the output. So let's just try another quick trick just to double check. Grab a join. In fact, grab 2 of them. And then just write space becomes duplicate temp. And then grab this whole thing and put it into the second half here, the second banana. Put this back. Now what this is going to do, this is not really changing anything. We've still got our original function, but I just added some writing so that I can see what input maps to this whole output. So when we hit play, it'll tell us. 2 becomes 2, 3 becomes 3, 4 becomes 4, 5 becomes 1, 6 becomes, and so on. This is what we want. So we've now got the function that we're looking for. And it's this. Now the rest of it we don't care about, so we can throw it away. But this is the part that we want to take with us over into our next programming. Now we don't really care about temp. Temp is just a placeholder for the input. The input we're going to use is level. We're not going to use 4, we're going to use the length of the weather list. But let's just set that aside for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to move this over to level. And then in level, we'll pick it up from there next time. And I'll see you then. Thank you for listening, and if you find this video useful, please hit like and subscribe.